Hello, YouTube. It's DasGregor, and welcome back to another weekly, because that's what it's been lately, edition of my travels in LFS. Well, guys, let me tell you, after last Sunday's video, I thought I did something stupid on Monday. I thought, ooh, that's the last of LFS. I went and done it and blown it all up to smithereens. But as you can see, I'm still in LFS. I've been up now for 4 days, 17 hours, 48 minutes on this little guy. He has been surviving. He has been doing well. And I've still been enjoying LFS a lot. Now, Das, what did you do? Tell us. Tell us. It's so embarrassing. I did something stupid. I've been thinking about utilizing LFS to either build Gen 2 on this machine in a separate partition, or I was thinking about playing with FreeBSD and making this a dual boot system for a while because with as much work as I have put into LFS, I'm not ready just yet to say, okay, it's good, it's wonderful, let's move on. It's been over a month now that I've been using LFS, and I really haven't touched my Gen 2 machine that much other than to keep its updates going and to check configurations and verify a few things here and there. LFS has been really stable. I've been very happy with it. Still an i3, of course. I really haven't updated or added anything new in the last week, mainly because work's been really busy and I just haven't had a chance to play with it too much. And Monday, like I said, I really thought I blew it up because I was going to partition and set aside about 30 gigs of space to go ahead and install, like I said, either Gen 2, BSD, something else, and make this a dual boot. Well, when I was trying to do my partitioning, something went wrong, and suddenly my system went into a kernel panic after a reboot. The partition table wasn't correct, and I'm not sure if partition table or if it was like I think it was partition table more than anything, but something went horribly wrong Monday evening when I was working on that. And I had a G-parted boot disk or boot USB that I had. It's kind of interesting. I actually had to utilize the latest version, download it, because for some reason the older version, I don't remember what version numbers I was on, but I had an ISO that I went ahead and threw on a USB stick real quick, booted into it, and it didn't seem to be able to see anything proper. And I thought, oh my goodness, it's gone for good. You've really done it, DOS. Yesterday's video was the end. Long story short, or short story long, because DOS doesn't really do a good job at telling stories briefly. That's why it's better to watch me on 1.5 speed sometimes. What happened was that the partition utility, I couldn't get gparted to function proper, and I should have just stopped right there, booted into another drive, and done everything there. But instead, I used parted, and it said, "Oh yeah, I can do this. You want to really do this?" I said, "Sure, yeah, let's do this. Let's change it from the 120 something gig partition it is down to say a 90 something or a little bit less than that. Give me 30 gigs to play with. I mean, there's plenty of space. Okay, we'll do it." And I really expected for some reason that it would then say, okay, well, we got to do this, this, and this, and then we'll move and make sure the data is all good and push it over to there. Kind of like what gparted does for you. But instead it said, okay, I did it. I said, that was a little too fast. and something doesn't seem right. And I'm thinking something's just not cool. So on the reboot, kernel panic and dead. Well, so like I said, I logged into the USB version. I checked it all out. It said the partition was hosed. I tried to do a repair, no good. I tried to run through and do the whole super block, whatever, no good. Nothing I did. It would just start to go through, and it kept saying it's reporting one thing, but it's another thing, and blah, you blow up, you know, barf, no bueno. Oh, Mensch, schrecklich. Yeah. But then I thought, after I had talked to a few guys in my RC channel, I was like, yeah, it's over, it's done. I thought one more thing. Since I used Parted to change it, I thought, well, let's try Parted again with the USB. And I was able, I told it resize it back to the way it was. Now, initially, it did that, but for some reason, it was still saying that it was 32 megs difference in the reported versus regular size. So I just kept fiddling with Parted, raising it, because if I went too far up, like 120, so the 121 gig partition, it would say, it's too big. There's not enough physicals. So I just started going backwards from that a little bit at a time until it finally accepted, a partition element and said, okay, yeah, I'll make that way. And after doing that, I rebooted back into it, and it said, hey, your partition looks sweet. No problem. So I did a repair just to make sure it looked okay. It said, oh yeah, everything's cool. I'm like, let's reboot this thing. I rebooted, and it went through on the system side, another check, and it's like, cool, everything's looking good. It's looking good. No kernel panic. I got to my login. Oh, I got to my login. Type as fast as I can. Get in there. It let me log in. No kernel panic. I started up i3. Everything is back to normal. Sweet relief. I really hated to go out on a note like that. I really hated to of all things, to destroy and mess up something boneheaded thing. Should know better. Although, interestingly enough, I had a issue with resizing a partition one time of my home drive. Something went wrong. The power system died, and it shut off in the middle of it. It was, of course, in the middle of resizing. I was getting the same kind of errors with that particular hard drive afterwards, and I just gave up on it and said, yeah, it's gone. I lost it all, and I didn't really know anything. Now I'm curious now if I could have repaired that particular hard drive partitions setup, doing the same thing I did with this, using Parted and just resizing it back to its initial values. And I'm wondering if that would have repaired that. I would have recovered a lot of very important home data stuff back then. Now, that one wasn't my fault. That was a power thing, and oh my. So, that was a little heartbreaking because my backups weren't completely all up to date. I do store most of my stuff on a NAS. And that brings me to part 2 of my discussion for today. I am thinking, I'm not thinking, I am going towards a better NAS solution. I have a 2 terabyte single drive Buffalo NAS that I've used for about 5 years. It's done me well, but it's old, no more space. I need to be able to increase, and I've decided to either go with a Synology 5 bay, the DS1517 Plus, or I'm actually looking at possibly the QNAP. I believe it's a TS853A, which is actually an 8 bay, because I want to have expandability. Man, there are so many things to look at when going towards NASs. I'm not sure if any of you guys ever use NAS. It'd be interesting to find out your thoughts. I've pretty much looked at everything. I'm really impressed with QNAP's design. I'm really impressed with their UI. I like how everything's there in my face, and it looks like I can really customize and do what I like with it. That's the biggest thing. I tried the demo of Synology, and I was like, their demo is kind of crap. I'm sorry, but it's bland. It looks like it hides so much important information, and I hate programs that make it so that you're too dumb to know all these extra steps, so we're just going to hide it. And I want to be able to either just show me the basics in the beginning when I'm learning it, but allow me to grow into it and give me that more advanced feature rich environment after I understand it better. I really feel like QNAP software gives me a much better uh, thing with that. The other thing with QNAP that's really a big benefit over Synology that I found is that you can plug in HDMI for video, you can put a USB mouse and keyboard, you can use the QNAP NAS as a desktop unit. In fact, the 853 even has ability with a dual OS, one being the QTS software and Ubuntu. Hey, don't knock it. It's still Linux. That's awesome. That's great. That really stokes me on that, to be able to have that capability, to be able to plug in a USB drive and just push one time backup, and it does that. These are features that Synology doesn't have at all. But some of Synology's newest features that I've been looking at with the new 6.2 version of their software DSM, there's some pretty neat stuff coming online, like facial recognition photo album stuff that really allows you to figure out that you can actually tag face, and they will actually find all the pictures with those people in them. That is really neat. I'm not sure if QNAP will come out with something like that, but then again, that's one of the frostings of the system, and not so much a really important feature of it. The biggest features that are important to me, I have found, are on both systems. With the loss of SHR, Synology's hybrid RAID, that is a very tempting ability. Being able to mix and match hard drives and still be able to have functionality with a RAID configuration. SHR1 allowing with one disk usage of loss for if you can lose one disk and you're still good, kind of like a RAID 5, and then SHR2, which has the ability to lose two disks, kind of like a RAID 6. Now, I could do straight RAID 5 in QNAP, or I could do a RAID 6, which is a lot more appealing. I'm thinking I'll start with like a RAID 5 and upgrade to a RAID 6. There is so much. It's important to me the data be recoverable. And I've already gone through one NAS failure 5 or 6 years ago, which is why I got the 2 gigs or two terabyte. I used to have a 1 terabyte NAS from about 10 years ago. Once again from Buffalo, they were my first introduction to NAS. I was very impressed with them. I stuck with them, and they've been a good company. But now it's time to move on to something bigger, something better, better expandability, better interface. And that's one of the things I've been looking a lot about at span.com, and they got some excellent videos out there on YouTube about this. And one of the things he mentions is you can have the best hardware in the world, and if that user interface, if that user experience isn't sharp and good, you're going to be upset with it. And that's where I'm at right now. Is like, I want to make sure if I'm going to invest anywhere from $500 to $1,000 just into a hardware system for my data, I want to make sure all the way around it's well rounded and very good. So I don't want to start any type of flame wars in the comments or anything like that. But if you guys have a strong opinion over QNAP, over Synology, even Drobo or something else, I'm trying to make sure that this decision is a good decision that allows me expandability, protection, redundancy, and just the ability to hold on to this for a little bit later. This, I'm hoping, is an investment in my data for the next 7 to 10 years. I don't want something that in 3 to 4 years, okay, well, it's outdated and no longer works. There are some really cool things with the QNAP, 4K transcoding. Now, I only have one 4K TV. That's not that important at this point in time, but who knows, in 6 years, that might be something I'd be face palming and saying, Das, why didn't you think about this 4 or 5 years ago? Just because you don't have all that capability now, it doesn't mean that you might want it and use it later on, and you don't want to have to buy all over again and start over at that point in time. That's why I'm looking at possibly an 8-bay NAS instead of just going with the 5-bay from Synology, or even going with the 1817 Plus with an 8-bay from Synology. There's just some features that are really sweet with that QNAP that I'm just really impressed about. And I think I could live without SHR, but man, that's a really neat feature that Synology has. So that's all I have to say today. It's a short video, as Dirk would say. It's about 3 to 4 minutes long. Yeah, I think I figured out his thing with his videos. Anything he says it is, multiply it by about 4 or 5, and you got about the right length video. And Dirk, if you're watching this, see, I told you, the video camera wasn't broke. I didn't break that. I did worse earlier, but it's always worked. Last week, I just didn't feel like putting on the video. Give you a rest from my ugly mug. So if it's morning, evening, noon, or night, whatever you're having, I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for all your support with LFS. And any comments or ideas you guys might have, I always enjoy hearing from you. Thanks a lot. Bye, guys.